Well, she's almost too tall for the camera. However, she is the featured orchid today because she is a first-time bloomer. This Paphiopedilum coming up at the Orchid Hut. Welcome back to the Orchid Hut. My name is Dana, and thank you for joining me in this featured orchid video because this particular orchid is a first-time bloomer in my collection. Now, for those of you that have been following my channel, you know that every time an orchid blooms in my care for the first time, I do a special featured video just for that particular orchid. Now, this plant has been in my collection for a number of years now. It was actually repotted about a year and a half ago during the summer, and this largest fan was just beginning to sprout at the time of that repotting. And I'll put a link in the upper right hand corner of the screen if you would like to see how this plant looked a year and a half ago. And you know, it took this fan a good year and a half, 2 years to fully develop, and now it has finally bloomed in my care. So let's talk about Paphiopedilum orchids a little bit more in general before we get to the bloom of this specific plant. There are over 100 species of this type of orchid in tropical jungle areas of Asia. And there are also, according to the American Orchid Society, up to 23 identified natural hybrids. This particular orchid is definitely a hybrid because you can see that the name is rather complicated and there is a lot of crossing going on to create this particular orchid. If the camera doesn't focus well on this name, I will, when I'm editing this video, add it so that you can read it on the screen. Now, you know, I tried to find pictures of the different orchids that were used to create this one, and I was going down a lot of rabbit holes to try to find accurate pictures. So while I was not able to do that, the main thing to notice is that all of that crossing produced a very cabernet, merlot, wine-colored bloom that is about as big as the palm of my hand. Now, some Paphiopedilums produce multiple blooms, but this is a single bloom spike from this fan. This particular bloom has been open now for me 3 to 4 days. You know, and since I never know how long these blooms are going to last, I try to hurry up and, you know, do the videos for these while they are looking their best. You know, this one grows indoors for me year-round under the grow lights. In the wild, these orchids are considered semi-terrestrial, meaning that they grow on the jungle floor, oftentimes in humus, or they'll grow in pockets of trees where there's a little bit of humus, and then sometimes they're a little bit bare-rooted as well. So that's the reason why they're classified as semi-terrestrial. So when you're growing these in cultivation, trying to mimic that environment is sometimes a little bit of a challenge, but I'm growing this one in small bark, some sphagnum, and a little bit of perlite. And it has done just fine since I have repotted it. Now, these orchids also prefer slightly lower light than a Phalaenopsis orchid. So that's generally easy to do. You know, wherever you might grow Phalaenopsis inside your home, these can just be a little bit farther away from the light source, and they will do just fine in a southern to eastern exposure, or even a western exposure if the light is not too hot. And they also prefer more like intermediate temperatures as well, so that also makes them a good indoor orchid. And what they say is that if you look at the leaves of a Paphiopedilum, if the leaves are mottled, as this one is, then that is a more warm-growing Paphiopedilum. But if the leaves are a solid green color, then that's a cooler grower Paphiopedilum. However, the difference in the temperature preference is really minuscule, maybe like by about 10 degrees difference between the daytime preference to the nighttime preference. And really, your indoor growing environment will likely suit either the warm growers or the cool growers. So really, you just have to maintain a semi-moist environment for the Paphiopedilum. They do like humidity, however, they also like air circulation. I don't fertilize this orchid any differently than I do any of my others. So if you look at the bloom structure up close, you'll notice that it has a really, really fascinating lip, which is the reason this orchid is also referred to as the lady slipper orchid. And you can even see on the back of the bloom especially that it has a very, very waxy appearance to the petals and sepals. And zooming in really, really closely, you can even see some of the warts and fine hairs that are along the edges of the petals and sepals. So a really, really fascinating orchid. Looks a little bit like an alien to me. This one is often really, really loved by certain orchid collectors. Some people really dislike them, but there usually is no middle ground. I happen to like these orchids mostly because for me, they are easy to grow and something different to have in my collection. So I hope you enjoyed my new bloom for you today. I'm very, very thrilled that this one has finally shown me what it looks like because I had no way of knowing with all of that strange cross information on the tag. So if you like this video or learned something new, please give it a thumbs up. The subscribe button will be coming up in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. Don't forget the notifications bell to let you know when I've posted something new. Thank you all so much for watching, and talk to you next time.